Hi, Emmanuel. Really great to have you on the show.
Hey Dolly, how are you? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. And hope you've been well with everything going on, with all of the sort of resurgence of the lockdown. How are you coping?
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's actually been quite a busy season because I think the lockdown has made people actually realize that that mad guy on the internet that was telling you to save for an emergency fund and not spend all of your money that you hated. Now, his advice seems to have paid dividends for those that listened, and so I've had so many more inquiries, so many more people who have said, what, actually, I want to get right with my money, or
Mhm.
being on furlough has meant that I've gone into debt, and it shouldn't be that way. 20% loss shouldn't affect you in that way. But for a lot of people, they were living to 100, 110, 120% of their income, so they want to change that. So I've been inundated and more busy than I've ever been before.
Wow. So, can you give us a bit of an example of what it is you actually do? So, as a financial advisor, what
Yeah.
is your day to day like?
Yeah, so as a financial advisor, I guess my day to day consists of many different things. So we've got the main thing is seeing clients. So basically, I sit down with people and try and help them reach their financial goals. So it's one thing to have a dream and have a goal, and you know where you at and you know where you want to be. I think for a lot of people, it's that bit in the middle of how do I get there.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about helping my clients get there in either the best way, whether that be tax efficiently or speed, or in a way that makes sure that it's sustainable and that it can carry on depending on what their goals are. And so also allowing people to then understand things that they may not have thought about. So we only know what we know. And so the best thing about sitting down with someone like me is that because I meet so many different people from so many different backgrounds and have helped so many people, there may be things that you haven't thought about that I can now tell you, oh, this is another way that you can do it. And so that is most of my day, is kind of planning and helping people budget and be better with their money, invest their money, get on the property ladder, help business owners be more efficient with the money that they're making from their business, and try and help people with legacy, creating multiple streams of income.
Oh, fantastic. And it's interesting that because one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on the show, is because of the fact that you have the money mindset, right?
Yes,
And it's very important to have the right money mindset when you're looking to get into property.
yes,
It's interesting that a lot of people that I've spoken to have a keen desire to buy property, but they don't understand that they need to, there's almost like a process to go through, which
sure.
you will cover, where you need to get your money affairs in order so you can qualify to get a mortgage.
Yes, yes.
So if you could talk to that a bit about this sort of process where people need to be thinking what they need to be thinking about if they do
Mm.
want to get on the property ladder.
Yeah, and so for me, when it comes to the whole money mindset side of things, when it comes to getting into property, for me, it's about what are you prepared to sacrifice. So a lot of people will say, I want to buy property. And then for me, it's why. I always talk to my clients to talk about what's your why? Why are you pursuing this? And for a lot of people, their why is wishy-washy, hence why they never reach their goals, because their why is, oh, I just see everybody on the internet with a house, or oh, it's just a thing to do. And so what happens is, because your why is not strong, when you now start saving towards this property, all of a sudden there'll be this opportunity to go on holiday, or there'll be this opportunity to buy a new car, or some new trainers, or a new handbag, or a new £2,000 wig. And all of a sudden, because your why is not strong, these things lead your money into other places. And so for me, the foundation is to understand your why. And then it's to understand, okay, if my why is important, I need to then delay my gratification. So I need to understand that although, yes, as human beings, we live in an instant world. Everything is now. I always talk about, you get to the train station and it says 3 minutes, and you're like, 3 minutes, and you're saying it's a good service. It's like 3 minutes. Like if it's not 1 minute or 2 minutes, we're not happy. Like we're instant now. And so it's about understanding that, okay, yes, there's a part of me that wants that instant gratification, but actually, if I want to achieve my bigger goal, which is, to own a property, I'm going to have to deny myself some things in the instant and delay that so that I can buy this property in the future. And so for me, it's about understanding the mindset of, okay, can't, and then looking at my needs versus my wants. And some people, you need Netflix. You know what I mean? You need to be in Waitrose. You know that your money is really Lidl's. Your salary is Lidl's salary, but you're in Waitrose taking pictures down the aisle. You know Waitrose is not for you. So now it's about looking at our needs versus our wants, so we can have the money left over to put towards this deposit. And then once we go from there, then it's about the income side of things and the kind of the maths making it make sense.
Making sense. Okay, making sense. So the thing I was going to say while you were talking is, we talk about this sacrifice, right? Sacrifice to
Yes.
get what it is you are sort of planning towards. But where is there that place for living? Because
Yes.
in a way, you don't want to be sacrificing most of your life
Of
just
course.
because you want to acquire stuff, right? You want to at least
Yes.
have the opportunity that you lived a little. So
Yes.
how do you then balance that with your clients? How do you get
For
them?
me, yeah, I love that, and this is something that I've been talking to a lot of my clients in the last few months about, is that actually for your mental health, like, you need to have some enjoyment. But
Mhm.
for a lot of us, our enjoyment comes at a high price. So you need to have some enjoyment, but it doesn't need to cost 200, 300, £400. You can give yourself enjoyment at 20, 30, £40 and then still save the rest towards it. And so for me, it's about understanding creating moments to enjoy, but not necessarily spending all our money to enjoy these moments. And so it's about the balance. And then it's about how long do you want to reach your goal. So if
Yes.
I want to buy a property, if I want to buy it in the next 12 to 18 months, that cuts out a lot of enjoyment.
Yes.
But if I'm happy to wait 4 years, then I can have some more enjoyment, and it's going to take me longer. So sometimes I put it back to my clients and say, well, how long are you prepared to wait? Because the longer you're prepared to wait, the more enjoyment you can have.
Yes, and that's a good point. I like the analogy when you're talking about time
Yeah,
versus enjoyment. So really, you
exactly.
have to wait. I'm happy to wait 4 years. I'll enjoy myself along the way, but at least I know I have my goals all set out, and I will,
Exactly.
meet it. And then at least you know how much you do have to spend. Because I think another thing, and I'd love to go into practical tips. Another thing that people don't do is where you don't necessarily download your statement to see what
Mhm.
exactly is going on, because you have a mental image as to what you think you're spending until you do the math
Yes.
and you find out that actually you're spending a lot more on clothes, you're spending a lot more on Netflix and
Yeah.
subscriptions and things.
Yeah, I think it's so important, and I always challenge my clients, and ask them a simple question: how much does it cost to be you? And a lot of the time, people cannot answer that question. But we know what time we got to be at work. We know what time, what meetings we have at work. We know what our manager's having for lunch, but we don't know how much it costs to be me. How much does it cost for me to live the lifestyle that I'm living now? And so, like you said, what I get my clients to do is go back and look at the last 3, 4 months. Where have they been spending? And just write down. So, for example, you'll go through the statement. Every time you see Uber Eats, you write a column, Uber Eats. Every time you see how much, you put that price in. And then you can then average it. So you can then say, look, okay, over the last 3 months or the last 4 months on Uber Eats, I've totaled this, divided by the 3 or 4 months. This is how much I'm spending on Uber Eats. Am I spending too much? Can I reduce that? Am I happy to carry this going forward? Is
Mm-hmm.
this somewhere I can make a change? And if you do that with every single expense that you've got, all of a sudden you can come to a picture of, okay, this is how much it costs to be me, and this is what I'm going to agree with myself to spend and to save going forward.
Well done. And what's interesting again is how you analyze that, right? Because I guess at this point, you're also looking at how much you're spending on your credit cards.
Exactly.
So, there are two schools of thought. Some people are like, oh no, I don't want credit cards at all. It's demonic. I don't want
Come on, tell
anything.
them.
On the other hand, I always say, no, you need credit cards because that's how you build
Mhm,
up a history, right? And then on the other hand, there's some people that just spend on the credit cards. So what is a good
mhm.
balance when it comes to credit cards?
I think the balance is knowing yourself. I
Mm.
think there is this whole myth of you can't get a mortgage if you don't have a credit card. That's not true. You can
Oh,
get a mortgage even if you don't have a credit card. You might not get the best rate, because you don't have a history, but there are lenders that will borrow to you if you've had no debt, had no issues, no problems. You just might not get the best rate. That's just one of the factors. So if you know that, for example, if you know that you're the type of person, if you've got £1,000 credit limit, now it's a challenge for you to how you're going to spend that. And you know, every day you're going to go to sleep, all your mind is going to be thinking, oh, I can spend £100 on this. Then listen, credit card is not for you.
Mm.
You need to move away from that. It's not going to benefit you getting that because you haven't got the discipline. And that's something you need to work on. But also on the other extreme is that if you can manage it, then definitely do. Because again, I like to think of these things practically. If I was gonna, if someone was gonna ask me to borrow money, and I had a friend who had borrowed their money before, I would want to know how did they use money before, and that's all your credit score is. All a bank is doing is saying, "Right, you've borrowed from some other banks or some other lenders. How have you managed money with them? And if you've managed money good with them, I'm going to take it as if you could do it good with them, you can do it good with me. If you haven't done it good with them, then I'm not going to take it. And if they don't want to give you money, then I don't want to give you money.
Yeah.
And that's really what a credit score is, to keep it simple.
Yeah. Okay. So for most people, managing their credit score should be almost vital. It needs to be, especially if you're looking to get on the property ladder, it needs to be something that you're considering very closely and you're looking out. In my case, I actually subscribe to some of the credit card credit
Yeah, the
score
reference
credit
agencies,
reference
yeah,
exactly agencies,
yeah,
just to make sure that I know what's going on a monthly basis. Now,
sure.
what are your thoughts about keeping that sort of close eye on your credit file so that you know what's going on?
I think it's really important. The reason it's important is because what we want to do is we want to leverage. We want to use leverage, and so we're not all like Donald Trump, where our dad can give us a small loan of £1 million to get started. Do you know what I mean? So for a lot of us, we can't even we are giving money to our parents rather than the other way around. So in fact, we have to make sure that we leverage what the small that we have. We can leverage it
Thank you.
to get something bigger.
Yeah.
And so the key measure when it comes to whether I'm going to borrow money to you or not
Mhm.
is your credit score. So that's why your credit score is important. It's not that we care about credit that much. What we care about is being the ability to leverage. But the
Mm.
ability to leverage comes from banks being comfortable with our credit score. So it's important for us to be on top of that. And so I definitely feel like we should register. And in the short term, you might register with Noodle or well, now Credit Karma or Clear Score or these type of ones that are
Mm.
free. But
Free.
as you get closer to getting a mortgage, then you might want to go onto the experience or the Equifax or so forth to get something a bit more in depth. But it's very important that you have an idea or what your credit score is, because that's what lenders see of you.
Mhm. So really, thank you for all this sort of insight. Very helpful. And now to know a bit more about you, Emmanuel, just to know about how you got to this point, right? Because you have sort of all this knowledge, and I imagine that you found this out along the way.
Yes.
So what is your background? How did you get to this point where?
Yeah, so my background, I guess I grew up in a place called Tower Hamlets in East London, on a council estate, to Nigerian immigrant parents. And if you know Nigerians, it's all about education. So education. It doesn't matter. You must win at school. And
Mm.
unfortunately, I was good at sport and I wasn't good at school. And so, I went to school. I left school with, four GCSEs. Listen, if leaving school with four GCSEs being Nigerian, like my dad just threw me in the bin. Do you know what I mean? I was a failure before I'd even started. Do you know what I mean? Life. And so for me, I had that kind of doubt as to what am I gonna do? How can I succeed? But living in East London, I live very close to Canary Wharf.
Mhm.
So I could see the big buildings in Canary Wharf. And I always tell the story how in my house, if I used to leave the light on in my house, my mum would go crazy. Who left the light on in the kitchen? Da-da-da. You know what I mean? It was a big, big thing. Then I used to look out my window at 11 o'clock at night and see these big buildings in Canary Wharf, and they got floors of lights. And I said, no, I've got to be over there. There's money over there. I can't even leave the light on in the kitchen. We got 100 floors here with lights on, and everybody's gone home. I said, no, that was my motivation. I said, I don't know how I'm going over there. That's where I've got to be. And so that was my desire and my focus to get over there. And so that's how I started the journey. I got a part-time job in Canary Wharf in Marks and Spencer's, 5 a.m. in the morning. I used to go in, and then I used that to become a cashier in Barclays. So I was almost there because I could see the Barclays and the HSBC building. Those are the two buildings I could
Those are
see,
the
and
two
I,
buildings.
I was like, I've got to be in one of those. So I got a cashier job at Barclays, and I worked hard. I got a mentor who really helped me, and one of the biggest lessons I learned was, and that he told me, number one, if you're on time, you're late. And when I was young, I think if you're on time, you're late. What does that even mean? But people don't realize that when to be early takes planning.
Hmm.
To be early means that you have had thought beforehand. That means you are not rushing into your day. You are going in,
Yeah,
you are in control of your day. It's so much more than just being on time.
yeah,
It's about a mindset, it's about focus, it's about determination. And so when I learned to be on time, I was late. And so
hmm,
I started getting everywhere 1 hour early.
wow,
Everywhere, 1 hour early. And so when I started to get to the branch 1 hour early, the branch manager was there. And because he had told me being on time was late, he started to invest in me. And so that was the first time I got a mentor. And then
hmm,
he told me, the next thing he told me, which really helped me, was don't work or act in the position that you're at. Work and act in the position that you want to be. So I was a cashier, but he was like, you don't want to be a cashier. You want to be more than that. So take the brochures in the banking hall, read up on credit cards, mortgages, all the products that the bank offer, learn them because you want to be above where you're at. And for a lot of us, we're not putting the
yeah,
energy above where we want to be. We're
yeah,
only putting the energy at where we're at and wondering why we're only getting back what
yeah,
we're putting in.
hmm,
And so that led me to then basically get to the point where I was outperforming everyone, only working 3 days a week. I outperformed everyone. When I got to 22, finished university, Barclays, a whole Barclays said, what do you want to be? I said, I
wow,
wanted to be a financial advisor. I
hmm,
became the youngest financial advisor in Barclays in the country. And at 22, I became a financial advisor. All my peers were late 40s, early 50s. And so they could all be my parents. All of them were old enough to be my parents. And so that was a big change. But now I had to develop. But then I got to a stage where I got through the banks, then went independent, and got to a point where I'm dealing with high net worth
hmm,
individuals, like average client 2 million. And I looked around, all my colleagues were white,
of course.
all my clients were white. Yet I go to church on Sunday and I'm seeing 600, 700 black people. I said, where are you people during the week? What's going on? How come I only see black people on Sunday? And then when we're talking, all we're doing is collecting money. I don't understand what's going on here. Offering. How many offerings will we do? And I can't see you guys during the week. So for me, I said I have to change this. Like I've learned a skill, I've developed it, and now it's my duty to give this back to my community. And so I decided that I'm gonna start online on Instagram and start giving out this knowledge. Let me tell
Fantastic.
you, nobody cared. Nobody
Nobody
cared.
cared.
Nobody cared. I was on Instagram. Nobody come on Instagram to hear about financial this. Nobody cared. You this fool. What are you doing? Like, who cares? I'm here for entertainment. So I had to learn to, deliver my
Yeah,
my my, my knowledge in a different way, in a
yeah,
way that could still be entertaining and people could still feel like they could feel it, but still get the knowledge.
yeah.
And when I started,
Making me
a
crack
lot
up.
of my a lot of my colleagues
Yeah.
looked at me and said, "You're crazy," because financial advice in the UK is targeted at high net worth individuals.
Hmm.
So you are now going to try and give financial advice to people on low incomes, people that have never bought property before, people that so how are you going to survive? It's a flawed method. That's
Yeah.
what they told me. It's a flawed business plan.
Yeah, because it's based on the amount that you can manage, isn't it? So
Exactly.
you want to be targeting the higher earners
So you
because
have
the
less.
percentages, yeah, exactly.
Exactly. So that was their thing. So
Mm,
then as it built up, as I started to do online, I got more following.
mhm.
All of a sudden, got onto the TV. The TV show came about on Channel 4,
So
and
that was your first
basically
TV show.
first TV show straight on Channel 4.
Mm,
Save well, spend better. And the premise of the TV show was what I was doing every single day. So
mm,
they wanted to help offer advice to the regular Joe public, normal people, on how they can be better with their money. And
mhm.
that's what I was doing every day. So I was a perfect fit. And then
Yeah.
that's then led on to all the success that we're doing that's happened now. And now all those that were laughing at me were like, oh, Emmanuel, we wish we could Do you know what I mean? We could do what you're doing. You're doing amazing. Like, how did you get on the TV? I'm like, well, you wanted to focus on
On
your rich,
people.
and I wanted to focus on helping the nation. And now, I'm here. And I
Mm.
always tell people the power of believing in yourself. And just because, other people haven't done it or have done it doesn't mean that you can't do something. And I always talk about, the bread aisle. You go to the bread aisle. Do you know how much types of bread there are? Could you imagine if Hovis said, oh, I'm not gonna, there's King's Mill already.
Yeah.
King's Mill already have brown bread. I'm just, there's
Yeah.
just no point. Do you know
Yeah.
what I mean? But they're
Yeah.
all there and we're all buying the different types. And so people need to realize that the biggest thing that's going to help you be you is you. Your unique selling point is that you're the only version of yourself. And once I understood that I had the value, the skills within, that has, really helped me, achieve what I've been able to achieve.
Wow, well done. That was hilarious. Some bits of it really well delivered. And the thing that is interesting, you say, is about the whole thing with the bread aisle. The first
Mm,
time I heard about that was they were talking about convenience stores, and he
mm,
said sometimes you see a strip where there'll be like six different shops all selling the exact same thing.
exactly.
Bread, milk, whatever, and they're literally next to each other, but they're all still in business.
Hmm.
And he said all you need to do to have a different product is to have that 10% difference
Mm,
between one and the other, right? And at the end of the day, when we look at our individuality, that's the 10% difference we're talking about.
exactly.
The fact is,
Exactly.
you will always deliver it different. So there's so many people in property. It doesn't matter. There are people that are going to gravitate towards me because they're going to see something within me that appeals
Exactly.
to them and they want to learn from me, right?
Exactly.
Likewise, you. And I like the idea that you had the passion. So the two things that I picked up from what you were saying. First of all, the fact that you saw, you see, it's funny, the power of vision, right?
Vision.
That you
Hmm.
were looking at those towers and you were like, these guys have their lights on.
Come on.
There has to be a way to keep the lights on.
Come
You know,
on.
and that kept you, that vision kind of kept you where you knew you wanted to be on that ground, right? So
Yes.
it took you to Canary Wharf. You
Yes.
started from the bottom, now you're at the top in a sense,
Yes.
right?
Exactly.
Which is, it's really, really inspirational to hear that. And then the second bit that you said was just around how you knew within you that you didn't want to be focusing on the rich. That's what everybody's doing, right? You
Exactly.
wanted to help. And
Yes.
it's out of that help that you then get fame in a sense, because
Exactly.
that's commendable that you said,
Mm.
look, I want to help the people that I see around me. I'm going to church. And it's true, we go to church. And then you go to the millionaire clubs and everybody else is,
Come
So
on.
yeah, really, really, really insightful.
Thank you.
So now we know, okay, so first you got on Channel 4, and then
Yes.
where has that sort of taken you to? I'm kind of interested.
Yeah, so from Channel 4, then I really started doing a lot more school gigs. So I give talks at school because I understand that when I go, especially schools in deprived areas, when I go into a school in
Yeah,
deprived areas, there's an effect that's going to have on those young people that other people can't have because I look like them,
yeah,
I talk like them, I come from a council estate like them,
mm,
yet now I advise millionaires.
yeah,
And that inspiration to representation matters so much. So I go into schools and I give talks and it's just so powerful. And now, like I said, I don't work. I just do what I love and get paid for it. Like
mm,
I don't work. I could do this all day. But even when there's no money, I would still do it with the same joy
yeah,
because it's just what I love to do. And so I'm going giving talks in school. Then from there, I've gone to universities. I, in just before lockdown, I gave a talk at Cambridge University. Me with my four GCSEs, I was in there, and I was the smartest person in the room when it came to finance and what I was delivering
wow,
because I took time to learn a skill,
yeah,
and develop, and it was an amazing experience because I never thought I would ever see the halls of Cambridge, and yet I'm there as a guest speaker.
delivering, wow,
Do you know what I mean? And then we left on to go on to BBC, which I've done a few things with BBC, and then this morning, it was huge. Like I didn't realize when I did it, but I mean afterwards I was in the newspapers. It's just been crazy because this morning is such a big show, and Martin Lewis is so big, and to be
yeah,
be filling in for him and replacing him in that moment was so big for the country to see someone different.
yeah,
And the amount of emails and text messages and people that have got in touch to say, my son was like, wow, there's a black guy here doing finance. He's
mm,
on television and he's not a comedian and he's not a footballer, or do you know what I mean? He's an expert. He's
mm,
on the TV being an expert. And I think it helped people realize that you can be an expert in whatever you do, and that you can still find fame and still find adulation without having to be a sports star and entertainer in that sense. And it's just been an amazing experience.
Yeah, and really inspirational because honestly, it's one of the things. So I'm a mom, with a boy as well. And
Yes.
growing up in sort of in London, you always want them to have those role models. It's nice
Mm,
to see other people and see what they're doing, but being able to identify with somebody that is, and it's nice. The footballers and they
yes.
have their own thing, they do their own thing, but we definitely need more representation. And that's a professional capacity, right?
Yes.
Where you're on TV, you're representing finance in a sense,
Yes.
and you think,
Yes.
look, you can also be responsible in a sense. So no, it's really good on you and amazing to really hear about the progress and just hear about all the amazing things that started because you just had a vision. you
Yes.
know so really, really, really great to hear. And so now going forward for you, what you've talked about the fact that you enjoy doing the talks and
Yeah.
just educating people in a sense.
Yeah.
Actually, before we go into moving forward, just kind of towards the end of the
Yeah.
conversation, you were talking about talking to young people, and
Yeah.
I think that it would be interesting to sort of talk to, because a lot of people that listen on the show are people who have young kids.
Yes.
So what sort of things should they be doing now in order to
Mm,
prepare the young kids coming up? Because
yeah.
it's all well and good for us to be thinking for ourselves, but we also need to be putting in the right values with the kids right now, because mine is 5,
Yeah.
and 3. I need to be doing stuff to get them thinking now.
Definitely, definitely, and it's imperative. And if I can tell anything to parents, it's imperative that you educate yourself financially to pass that on to your children. I think we like this lockdown has really made me understand that I was really relying on one person to educate my child out of a class of 20 to 30 children, and think that that's going to be the be all and end all and get them to where they be in life. Like when I actually realized the concept, I thought, no, that's crazy. Then financial education, when I sat down with, these millionaires or these people that have wealth and sat down, the reason that they're there is not because of, what they learned in school. It's because their parents taught them this is what you do with money. When they were born, their parents opened the account. When they were 18 or 20 or 21, their
Mhm.
parents said, look, this is the money that we save for you. So if somebody saved money for you when you were 21, won't you do the same thing when you have your? That's just standard. That's not financial education. That's what we do in our family.
Mm.
But for a lot of us, we need the financial education to start to build these habits to make it normal and the things that we do. And sometimes we compare ourselves to our peers, and so we compare ourselves to our peers. But our peers are. I've met clients that didn't pay for university, didn't buy their first car, didn't pay deposit for their house. So how will you compare when we're still sending money back home? I always tell you, Tommy from Leeds is not sending money home to Leeds, living in London. Do you
Yeah.
understand? That
True.
pressure is not on his head.
Right.
Like, so it's different. We can't compare to others, and we need to know where we're at. But
Mm.
for me, financial education, the biggest thing I always tell parents is don't talk to your children about money. Talk
Mhm.
to your children about value,
Mm.
and make them understand the value. And what I mean by that is that if and I always talk about apples and trees, yeah. For a lot of us, money is the apple, and so we focus on the apple. But the problem is if we always focus on apples, then we're always going to have to go and find somebody that has a tree to give us an apple. But actually, if we start to focus on value, which is trees, then the value that we bring will bring us the apples. That tree will grow and it will provide apples, and you won't have to go elsewhere. And so, for me, when it comes to my children, I'm teaching them skills that will always mean that I'm able to provide value. So for me, I get paid to speak. I get paid to be in public and have the confidence to stand up. But a lot of people don't have that confidence. And in the workplace, you see those that are able to move forward are able to talk up in meetings, are able to share their opinion and so forth. So my kids go to drama classes, not because I want them to be actors, but because I want them to be able to have the confidence to stand up. They do martial arts, not because I want them to take a career in karate, but I know that again, it helps build confidence in themselves and being self-aware. They went to start a tech class, but it's gone. But they're gonna learn so that if we get a recession like now, they can go on Fiverr or one of these and say, look, I'll make a website for you. And they can start to add value and get paid. And so for me, young people need to understand the importance of value and not money. Because money comes and money goes, but value stays. And as you nurture that value, it can create more money.
That is amazing, because one of the key things is, and you find out that a lot of entrepreneurs somehow, either if it wasn't instilled in them, they
Mm,
develop that value you're talking about. That's the value system that no matter what happens, even if they lose all their funds, they
yes,
have it within them to start again.
exactly.
And I think for me, it's this year that helped me to realize that I was an entrepreneur at heart, because effectively, I was telling you before how parts of the
Yeah,
business fell off,
yeah,
but instantly the value is in there, the system is
yes,
there to start to develop something else that is creating service, creating
exactly.
value. And that's so key, that your kids from now start to understand the fundamentals of creating value, how they are valuing themselves, and how
Exactly.
they give value to.
You got it straight away.
Yeah.
Because again, what we're going into a social media world that's going to tell
Yeah.
them that they're only valuable if they're driving this car or
Yeah.
if they have Birkin bags or whatever nonsense it is when they grow up. But if they understand that they are already valuable and they are valued
Yeah.
and they have value, then they understand that anything that they own now becomes valuable because it belongs to them. And that's the different mindset. Because if I know that I put on this shirt, whether it's got a designer logo or not, because I'm wearing it, I'm confident that it's valuable because it's mine. Then I start to live life different. I can't be forced to buy
Yeah.
something just because I feel that it will make me feel better. I'm already confident in the person that I am. And that's the type of children I want to be raising. Because again, even with some high net worth people that I meet, when you see them, they don't really get on with their kids
Mm.
because they've come from humble backgrounds, but their
Yes,
kids haven't.
they haven't.
And
So
so they don't even like the kids that they're creating. Do
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I know.
Because they're like, no, this is not the values that they should have. But the
Yeah,
problem is that haven't spent the time to teach them those values. They've just given them the lifestyle. And a
yeah.
lot of the time that leads to them spending and wasting the money when you're gone, and then another generation has to start all over
All
again.
over again. Yeah. So they always talk about this thing with the generations, right? You always have the generations that came up, then they literally spoiled their own generation who spent
Exactly.
everything down. Then because their own kids had to come up again, it's almost like
Exactly.
a cyclical generation. But the generations that do well are the ones that what we're talking about, where you work up to a little
Hmm.
a point, then it's almost like a jump off for your own
Yes.
kids.
Yes.
Because from that point, then they take off. And then, so in a sense, some of us, I say this thing where some of us are second generation or first generation living in
Yes.
this country. So yeah, we're not starting with all of the, the value of maybe your grandfather had like
Of
land or
course.
had property that he could then pass on as an inheritance, which sometimes happens.
Mm.
But over here, we're basically starting the stage in a sense that our kids can then set off from, right? We need
Exactly.
to be doing the hard work now. And
Exactly.
it's just about making sure we have the building blocks for them. So definitely what you were saying about that, I love that point about making sure that by the time they're 18, you've already set up some sort of fund for them to inherit,
Yes.
right?
And
That they get, and it's just to start small
it's not
on a
big.
monthly basis.
Like it's not big, and no one should feel bad. If you need to use child benefit, it's there to be used. So if you're in a position you need to be use child benefit, then use it. But also have a plan to say, I want to get to the point where I don't need to use this. What are you doing? And I always talk about, I understand that everyone, I know what it's like. I've come from people think because I talk finance and money and I'm around millionaires or whatever that, I forget. I grew up poor. Like, do you know what I mean? My parents came and they just worked hard. But
Mm,
that but my thing is that you can be in a situation, and I don't judge anyone in that situation. My thing is, what's your plan to get out of it?
mm,
That's where people will always fall down to me because you will complain about a situation, but then I tell you, okay, so what are we going to do to get out of it? And you ain't got a clue. So now it's insanity to think that you can do the exact same thing over and over and over again, yet get a different result. And
mm,
so for me, that's where it's about change. Okay, yes, I know you're on benefits. Yes, I know your partner might have left you and you're a single parent. And I know that is hard, but
mm,
what's the plan? It might not take 1 year, it might not take two, it might take 4 or 5. You might have to go and do a course or some training, or you might need to wait until they're in school so you don't have to pay for nursery fee. But what's the plan? What are we doing to
mm,
change the situation? I think that's where we have to look at ourselves.
mm. And the thing you mentioned about where of the plan. It's almost like you need to have an idea of what it is you have now. And this is not just financially, this is even capacity wise,
Mm-hmm.
what you have now and where you want to be. Because the person that you see, the person that is going to be at that point, let's say it's point Z, is a
Yeah,
completely different person.
come
So
on,
what you were saying about the education, you almost need to educate yourself to become that person.
exactly.
You need to develop yourself. So we're not only just talking money at this point.
No,
We're talking internal development, taking care of your funds, just
yes.
generally building yourself up to that person you want to
Of
become.
course, it's so important. I always talk about the characteristics. People will say, "Oh, Emmanuel, you achieve so much." Do you? They're not giving me a job at 22 because, just because I passed the exams. That's down to That's down to the attitude. That's down to the mentality. That's down to the investment and time that I put into myself. That's down to the people that I surrounded myself with, and and so forth. And me being ready for the interview that I had to take, that everyone else had to take. And
Mm,
so, like you said, it's more than just money. And that's the problem in this world. All we talk about is money. But there's
mm,
so many more things that we need to adapt ourselves to. Like I was saying before, what type of children are we raising? What
mm,
type of attitude are they going to have because of the benefits that we're giving to them? We need to be mindful of that. Like,
mm,
and what are we doing to nurture? So, like for my children, for example, I get them to give to charity. So whenever they get money, whenever they make money, there's a portion of it that they have to give away to charity because they need to understand that they're benefiting from the hard work of me and their mum, and that there are other people that haven't got that opportunity, and part of life is to give back, and there's a benefit to
mm,
giving back, and there's a character that builds in you in
mm,
wanting to give back that will help you in life.
mm. Yeah. Thank you, Emmanuel. It's like, I feel like I'm in church right here. Like,
uh,
oh gosh, it's been so inspirational. And even though we talk about property, so mainly my
mm,
podcast is all about property and how people build, but we're also talking about the values to be able to
yes.
sustain this. Because it's one thing to also build up these things, and there's another issue around maintaining and sustaining, right? So
Mm,
if you're not that person, it's just gonna fall apart anyway. So it's
exactly.
about realizing that not only for yourself, it's also for your children that you're doing all this hard work for,
Yeah.
that you're also making sure that they are developing the right attitude, the right skills, and the right values to be able to inherit these things from you.
Definitely. And thank you, Dolly, for creating a platform, for putting it out there, because it's so important.
Mm,
Because there are not enough women in property, number one, let alone black women. Do you know what I mean? And so the more that you can do, representation matters. And I always say that there will be things that people that will relate to you because you're a mum and you fit their situation more than me, even if we say the same thing. So
mm,
it's so important what you're doing and the platform that you're creating, and the fact that you've been successful and decided to give back. And I think people act like we should do that, but I'm telling you that it's like 1 in 100 people that will think, okay, I've been successful. I remember when I'm talking 1 in 100, and for that hundred is like out of 100,000. So out of 100,000 of us, 100 become successful, and then one person thinks, I'm gonna go and give back.
mm.
And so for what you're doing is so amazing and it's so important, and it's inspiring how you can do it while still being married and having children, and show that you can have it all. Because a lot of the time people feel like if you're going to be successful, you don't get married, or you have to sacrifice being a parent, or whatever it may be. So I just appreciate you as a person and what you're doing and the platform you're creating, and the change that you're bringing and the value that you're adding to our community. And I just wish you more success going
Thank
forward.
you. Thank you so much, Mara. That's so beautiful and really nice to hear as well.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, sometimes you want to do something. It's not necessarily out of the greatness of your heart. It's just that
Mm,
you do realize that there is a gap, right?
mm,
And, one of the key things that I really wanted to do was to showcase. So I'll tell you one thing that happened once. I was looking through the internet, right?
mhm,
And I said, oh, I was just looking online to see, oh, I typed in Black women in property. And so this is where this whole thing came from, because I just thought, I went through and I think there was just one person that came up on,
mm,
and then another, and then there was a whole I think it was a podcast or a blog where they had
mhm,
about 50 odd women in property.
mhm.
And as I went through page by page, and nothing spectacular, by the way, it was like some
Yeah.
had bought like maybe a few properties, whatever. And I was just going through and I was like, why are there no black faces on here? Like, I don't
Mm,
understand where we are represented here, right?
mm,
And then finally I came by one person, and it's a lady called Elsie, and she's been in the game for a while. And I
yeah,
was like, wow, like in all of this, so I definitely felt that need to just, we need to showcase ourselves more. And,
definitely.
there are different platforms that do this for sure, but you just try and do what you can, isn't it? So
No, yeah, it's so important because there are so many. I feel like black women are like, if you think about it, it's hard to be a woman and it's hard to be black. So
yeah,
being both is, do you know what I mean? And then
one.
you add wife, then you add mother. So I understand why so many will just sit back and say, you know what, I'm just gonna let life pass me by and just try and get by because there's so many pressures.
Yeah.
But the more people like you that step up and show you, look, we can do more, we can be more, and we don't have to be limited by our gender or our race. It's so powerful. And I feel like, as even me as a black man, as being a man in this society, there are certain benefits I get. So for me, it's so important to empower black women when I see them, and that's why I wanted to come on here and try and add value to your platform, because I love what you're doing and I love to see it because it's so important. So I know you might not get the thank yous that you deserve. People might just keep asking questions. How do I buy this? Or where do I go to buy that? And then you have to answer, and no one says thank you afterwards. But I appreciate you. We appreciate you, and like I said, I wish you more success on the journey.
Thank you. And for you too. And as we wrap up this sort of beautiful session that we've had, what I wanted to ask was, where do you see yourself sort of going forward? You've
Yeah,
attained success. I'm sure some of it wasn't even planned, it's just
yeah.
shown up. And, so where do you see Emmanuel kind of going? What is your
My thing is just to be, the advisor of the nation. Like I'm literally like I stopped being a financial advisor almost for like the last year and a half, just
mm,
focusing on, people that I was seeing weren't at positions to get mortgages. They weren't at positions to invest in pensions or investments or buy shares or all the stuff that I've been doing for the last, 13 years. And so I'd stopped doing it and just focused on trying to help. But now that message has got through, and so now I'm seeing more and more people that I'm helping them buy their first property, or helping them, start buy their first shares, or get into becoming a business owner and making that business profitable. And so I'm just enjoying doing that. But and so we've got now building our platform, our wealth management platform, and so now I'm starting to deal with, like, I don't want to say too, but celebrities and high net worth black people now they want a black financial advisor. Hey, I'm here. Do you know what I mean? And so it's
nicely in that position. Yeah. So
so now I'm now training up younger, not just younger, but I'm training up black financial advisors that will come underneath me, that will deal with maybe the smaller cases, while I deal with the more high net worth, celebrity cases. We're doing more television. Trust me, they're going to see me loads more on TV. That's coming up. Talks. I'm doing corporate talks all over the place, and obviously once we're allowed to be out doing events, the event side of things was just crazy even before, so it'll be even bigger now. So there's so much more coming, and I'm just so excited for everything. And I want to be able to give my kids. I've got 4 kids and a wonderful wife. Yeah, I
just
got
the ages. I've been quite keen to know.
Yes, I've got an 8-year-old, I've got a 6-year-old, 4-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So yeah, my house is full. My
Oh,
house is full. So I'm really, yeah. But my wife is just so supportive. She makes everything happen, and that's why when people ask me, I always say we, and they're like, "Who's we?" I'm like, "No, my wife." Like it doesn't happen without her. And you may not see her, and I'm the face or whatever, but I'm me because of all the things that she does. Do you know what I mean? And so for me, I just want to give them the example. Now they're starting their own YouTube channels because they see their daddy on TV. It's normal. Like when
mm,
I grew up, black person on television, we had what, Mr. Motivator, Ainsley Harriet, and then the only real one we really respected was Sir Trevor McDonald. But now, my children, they see their dad that they grew up with on the television. So to them, it's normal. And that's the thing. The more of us that start to excel, we start to make these things normal for the next generation coming.
fantastic. Thank you so much, Emmanuel. And I
Thank
wish you all the best. And we definitely are looking forward to seeing more and more of you as the financial advisor of the
you.
nation.
Come on.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. And just to wrap up, what's the last thing that you have to say? I almost don't want to finish it, but last thing that you have to say, just as a parting word for the guys who are listening.
I think the last thing I have to say is that one thing I've realized in this is that every skill I needed to achieve success, I already had inside of me. I just needed to nurture it. And I think for a lot of us, it's not that we can't, it's just we don't know how. And you have the skills to reach your dreams and live the life that and be free and live the life you want to live. It's going to take sacrifice, but make sure that you know you are nurturing the gifts that you have, and don't be afraid to ask for help or support. And that doesn't have to be black, that doesn't have to be white, whatever color it comes from. Don't limit it. I think a lot of the time we limit ourselves to one community. I'm telling you, I am here, the financial advisor, the knowledge I am today, because white men have and white women have spent time to nurture, mentor, correct, take time to. So don't just limit yourself to only, oh, I must stick to my community.
Yeah.
Whoever can help you, support you, go out and find it. I always talk about spending more time on LinkedIn than you do on Instagram, and make those connections, build your network. Your network is your net worth. And it's so important that you understand the importance. There are people who want to do something and they can go to their phone and say, oh, do you know someone that does it? Yeah, okay. And they're gone.
Mm.
And then there are us that want to do something and we don't even know where to start.
Mm.
And the more you own, the more you limit your network, and the more you only surround yourself with a few people, the harder it comes to get to that success. So build out there, go out there, add value to yourself, and build up your network, and you will see the changes coming.
And on that note, I would say thank you so much, Emmanuel. Very inspirational, very insightful. And we look forward to seeing more and more successes from you.
Thank you.